Yeah.
Yeah, you can do anything with it. It's like take it like half serious
Right.
and then half just
There we
oh
go.
There he
I'm so
is.
sorry, fellas. So sorry.
there he is.
What's going down?
How are you, sir?
Look at the Raiders guy.
That's right.
Looking good. How's everybody doing?
Quarantine.
How are you?
Hey, Tyler, I'm good. Have you ever noticed? I only picked up. Well, I noticed the one thing a couple of years ago and became fascinated by it with the Raiders logo.
Sure.
One is this is a man. He's a pirate. You know,
Mhm.
that's what a Raider is a pirate. He's devoted his life to raping and pillaging and destroying lives the world over. But each day before he goes out for another day of burning down lives and everything, he starts it with a clean shave. Look at him. What pirate? What pirates? What kind of pirates? Hold on. Gotta look my best. But then I like that. And then two, he's got the eye patch. Okay, so he can't. Well, obviously there's no eyeball inside there, or it's in such disrepair he has to
bad shape
from society. The other eye, look at it closely. It's closed.
Mhm.
What message is that sending? Look at the mess. Look at his eyes closed. What are you looking at? Nothing.
Maybe you're saying he's so like those it doesn't happen anymore. There used to be like a lot of blind jazz piano players. Doesn't really happen anymore. not so much anymore. I feel like I don't see that anymore. So he's like, I could pirate, both handed, eyes closed, daddy.
Maybe get Molinaro back on here to discuss Skywalker, young Skywalker. That's what he's like. He's like, trust the force. Like that's what same thing. Like I don't need the radar, kind of thing. Like,
time.
Check. I know you're a big Star Wars guy. Joey seems to love all of them. You stamp Star Wars on any piece of garbage, he's all in. What say you? Were you disappointed with the last story?
Are they good or bad? Yeah.
Here's the thing. I think Joey seems like he's a great story. Where how fast his mercurial rise, and he deserves it. He's a very funny guy and everything, but I get where he's coming from, and when he embarrasses you a little bit, when he's like, I don't know, I just am watching the movies to have some fun, like lighten up everybody. I get it, but he's also going up on Mount Pius to make that statement. It's like if I have a disagreeable of opinion, I'm a jerk now, I'm a loser. I agree, zealots ruin everything. And grown-ups, if you're 47 years old and you're wringing your hands about the new Star Wars movies, then all right, then maybe your life isn't as full as it needs to be. On the other hand,
hey, call my name, Shaq. Say my name.
I'm not. It's not directed at anybody.
Okay.
Not directed at anyone in particular.
Okay.
Now, Shaq, it must have been our first or second time we were together.
Wait, are we doing the show right now?
Yes, of course we are.
Oh, I didn't know what's going on.
We're 10 minutes in, Daddy. We're going.
All right. I'm so sorry. I'm tardy, and I missed this.
No, it's quite all right. It's quite all right. Is it?
Right.
By the way, is it Passover still?
I mean, listen, you're barking up the wrong tree. I know it was. I know people sedered last night.
That's why I was asking.
They ate the unleavened bread last night. I was remiss in not participating.
You passed over the Passover.
Oh, somebody already got warmed up before I arrived.
We were talking about all sorts of nonsense before you got here. We got some good Wilt Chamberlain chat with you coming up. However,
ooh, that's perfect. I can't wait for that because I have something I have to ask you two basketball aficionados.
Oh, all right. Well, hopefully one of us three remembers to get back to that. I
don't like, by the way, Tyler and Joey agreeing on like, what's this rooting for teams all year?
Hey, listen.
I don't know.
You feel this way.
Then what are we doing at all talking about sports?
One, exactly. That's exactly the point. And two, easy for a Steelers fan to say. Say you grew up I don't know, even an Eagles fan, where you're a grown man before you saw a title. I think you feel differently.
I don't know if it works with the East Coast. Like, we care too much.
I don't know.
It is. Well,
everything. Are you talking about like football, everything?
There is a Goldilocks. Okay. There is the Goldilocks thing that happens with sports fans. And not surprisingly, I feel like Pittsburgh threads the needle perfectly, that like just right kind of point of view for the local fan base. I personally find Philadelphia and New York City and the weirdest fan base out there. Oh, you know what? As a matter of fact, because I was just listening a couple hours ago to the show you guys did with Joey, and it was great. And you were talking about, like Star Wars fans of all the fan bases of sports and music and otherwise. Star Wars fans are the worst. But like I say, zealots ruin everything. And I dare say the weirdest dynasty fan base is the New England Patriots fans.
Let's get into it.
This chip on the shoulder thing that you guys have going 20 years later is just bizarre. Like, that it's not just water off your back is so crazy to me.
Every single slight.
So worked up. Is that how this whole thing? You understand that was nonsense when Tom Brady and Deion Branch and Julian Edelman and anyone else, Kyle Van Noy as recently as 4 or 5 months ago, like no one believes in us. Like Tom Brady, 5 rings in, like, hey, we stink and no one thinks we can win. All that stuff, like. I think some people think you're all right.
Heck, they had to play the first weekend of the playoffs, I'll have you know.
Didn't go so well. It didn't go so well. Listen,
I don't like
no
that,
one believed.
But I will say that the fan bases that are overly intense, this weird puff your chest out pride that the local media and the fans, specifically in Philadelphia, but it's also in New York, like, hey, it's not for all athletes, it's too tough a town for some athletes. Like, then maybe you're overdoing it. Like if you
feels like a lot. Yeah.
Hey fans, if you're scaring a player out of town, are you really doing a good thing? Like he's good at sports though. Don't you want him on your team? Like he couldn't meet with the expectations of
I'd rather a worse player with tougher skin.
Yeah, this was part of my argument with Kyrie last year. Granted, there seemed to be a little bit more going on there, but Boston fans wanted him gone before it was warranted. It was like November. They're like, get this guy. He hasn't re-signed yet, despite.
Were they wrong though?
No, but just the way they went about it wasn't the best. And for the Patriots' point, yeah, of course we're going to act like that. If it's working for the actual team, why wouldn't the fans take that on as well?
Well, because it was dumb. But also,
for sure, but it worked. Dumb things work, Shek.
Where are you? I don't want to jump into the hot takes immediately, but where are you?
Boy.
Yeah, save those. Yeah.
Where are you? Yeah,
We'll
let's
get to
push
them.
hour 3.
Shek's joined our
Let's work up to
show,
this.
and it's just begun hosting.
No. Talk about what you want, but I am curious. This is what the people.
Yeah, no,
this is what the people want to hear about. This is what the people want to hear from a diehard Patriots fan, and you are the perfect age, by the way, for this. The experience that you're 10 years old when as an afterthought, the 6th round pick and all that. Your guy is Drew Bledsoe. 20 years later.
No, hold on. My guy was Michael Bishop. Continue.
I stand corrected. Not Rohan Davey.
I was going to say, what the hell?
No. Germany
no Cliff Kingsbury love?
Yeah. Germany. He was the most dominant football player Germany's ever seen, Rohan Davey.
I liked Champagne Tony Easton myself until he got his comeuppance from the Bears. But anyhow, that's exactly the point. Steve Grogan, Doug Flutie, whatever else. Then they changed their uniforms and draft Tom Brady. And magically, 20 years later, a team, a franchise that had no history of success, exactly like Tyler says, like, what if you were born into the wrong franchise? You're 10 years old, Coley, when Brady is there, roughly. Then you blink your eyes 20 years later, you have 6 Lombardis. That's the same number as the greatest organization in pro football has. And it took us 2 QBs in 40 years to get those. You got 1 6th-round draft pick, and you got the same number of Lombardis. So that is not comparable really to much else in sports history. What if the Super Bowl is Tom Brady's Buccaneers in Tampa against Andy Dalton's Patriots? Are you going to be cool?
Yeah.
Go Patriots. Go Patriots.
Yeah, of course I am.
Why?
You root for Andy Dalton? There's no way.
I'd root for the Patriots, yeah.
He's Andy Dalton.
Yeah, well, Andy Dalton's not coming here, so already I don't care for that. Why would if Ben Roethlisberger the same thing was with like the Panthers and he was playing against Tyrod Taylor's Pittsburgh Steelers, you'd root for Big Ben? Of course you wouldn't.
Well, it's a little bit different. First of all, the thing that's closer to me that I kind of sort of experienced as a Pittsburgh sports fan, when Mario Lemieux's my all-time favorite athlete, when he retired, I didn't decide I don't like the Penguins anymore. but I became apathetic about them. I suspect that unless you guys are really good immediately, if you find yourself end of October, Thanksgiving-ish, and you're like, yeah, we're in third place. Josh Allen's Bills are in first, and we're tied with the Jets or whatever, you're not going to be as into it. But if it's Andy, now, if you go and get Cam Newton or somebody like that, it'd be like, oh, that'll be a cool
Someone
new
good,
experience.
yeah.
But if it's Andy Dalton or Jared Stidham or somebody like that, and you guys go 13-3, doesn't that impact Tom Brady as the GOAT? Like, Tom Brady can't be called the GOAT if Andy Dalton can replicate anything close to that. Eli, Nick Foles, Joe Flacco, those guys all dented the legacy of Brady slightly. But the most damning thing that ever happened in his career was Matt Castle winning 11 games. Like, oh, yeah, you could put a lot of different guys in there and do
They
it.
didn't make the playoffs. Like, that was kind of like, yeah, we won 11 games, didn't even make the playoffs. So I don't know. Like, Joe Montana's legacy is not tarnished by Steve Young coming directly in and winning more Super Bowls. People still argue. We had this conversation the other day. People still think Montana's better than Brady because he has the undefeated Super Bowl record.
The distinction is that with my hypothetical is Joe Montana's legacy, in fact, improved because Steve Young put up big numbers and the machine kept on rolling with Jerry Rice and everybody else. But come January, he couldn't get over the hump. And then that made all 49ers fans. There are a lot of 49ers fans that started to root for Montana over the 49ers because they were PO'd that they traded away Montana instead of Young. If Jared Stidham, some league average bum, replicates anything close to that success, that'll make Brady look bad.
Listen,
I'm just tweaking you after 20 years. I need something.
No, I get it. Yeah, no, you should be thrilled. You should be dancing in the streets. The boogeyman's dead, Shek.
No, I'm the opposite because I'm that kind of nerd that I'm mad that we didn't get our shot at the bully. Like he retired or he left without us vanquishing him.
20 years that's too soon. Yeah.
I was gonna say you had your shot. Gronk just kept catching the ball unimpeded, pretty much.
I know, it's embarrassing. Imagine I'm used to being on the right side of the hammer and nail metaphor. This was embarrassing. 20 years of Tom Brady and Bill Belichick and a bunch of bums who have the athletic ability of you, me, and my wife in the other room winning Super Bowl after Super Bowl. It's something that we just now have to move on from.
It's also kind of like Jordan Pippen though, right? Like Jordan retired, they went to the conference finals, but they couldn't get over the hump. Like, you can't get over the hump. That's what we remember.
That's exactly what plagues Steve Young. In fact, it's funny. Like,
he got one though, didn't he? Didn't he win?
Yeah, he definitely won.
The Chargers.
He won one finally, but it took so long. That was remember that whole monkey on the back thing at the end of after they beat the Chargers. That's the iconic thing from that because it had gotten to a point of being pathetic almost. That like, you ever going to win a Super Bowl, Steve Young? You ever going to get over the hump? But it's funny because I've been thinking about I don't mean to take things over.
Please do. This is the most well-organized show we've ever had. So please.
Well, the thing I wanted to talk to you guys about was, and then I also want to talk about inventions too, because this is the time to really celebrate, as you guys did the other day. I mean, thank goodness for TV. I mean, what would we be doing right now without TV? You know, I've been watching. I just watched the other day. You ever see the movie? The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. It's like, mid 19th century, late 19th century, Old West, like Kansas City area. And it's all about Jesse James. It's a great picture, but it's so austere throughout. Like, there's nothing in any room. Like they're just, the structures in which people lived have like, maybe a couple paintings on the walls, anything. It's like, what did you do? Books? Like, how much reading could anybody stomach?
Did they even read?
Right. Yeah. A lot of them didn't read. Really, what went into life back then?
Until the sun went down, like until the light bulb. It's like, what? There goes the books. Like, what do we do? We've got 4 hours left of daylight.
Hold your candle really close. Yeah.
Yeah. Just drip wax on the pages. Yeah.
That must have been the worst. But and you're exactly right that even the jump from 4 channels to the 300 we have now is gargantuan. If this happened in 1978, I don't know what. But the thing I wanted to ask you about is, because we're kind of dancing around it here, is, and like Tom Brady, by the way, said earlier this week, that like legacy. I think legacy. I don't care about legacy, and like I think it's a shitty question. Like, is it me or Bill Belichick? Like, I couldn't do Belichick's job, and he couldn't do mine. And it's like, yeah, I understand that you want to control the conversation and how you're remembered, but that's not the way it works. Like
Sure isn't.
Brett Favre wanted to do that. Peyton Manning wanted to do that. That's something that is out of your reach. For all your powers, you don't get to decide what we talk about. And what's dumb is that random fans now buy into that, like, because they think Tom Brady's going to be their friend if they agree with him or something. It's like, what are we watching sports for? That's what we did watch it for. It's like, no, that team in that decade would have beaten that team in the other. Like, that's what's fun about being a sports fan, isn't it?
Right.
Well, no, it'll never be played. There's no point in discussing any. No.
I know. Yeah. Well, why can't we just enjoy both Dan Marino and Patrick Mahomes? Because that's not the point. That's why we watch, is to have those. That's our role in the big commercialized sports. But in specifically, the one guy, Pardon My Take. It's on Barstool.
I'm familiar.
It's very popular. They do their. I'm not. I don't know how these.
They would never work on TV.
No.
They do this thing with Mount Rushmore, and then other people do their top 5, and other people do their top 10, and I do win, place, show, and whatever it is. If you did that for the last half century, the one guy who no one would debate is Michael Jordan. Tom Brady would be close, but to your point about Joe Montana, there are those who say, yeah, but he has the 0 in the loss column, and Brady doesn't. Montana has it, but 2 of them came against the Bengals, so those don't really count full points anyway. Michael Jordan, conversely, 6-0, plus the UNC title game against Georgetown. I submit that the sports god smiled on him, because when he retired, it just so happened to fall in that 2-year window where the Houston Rockets rose up. And had those Bulls with Jordan played Akeem Olajuwon's Houston Rockets, the Rockets would have beaten them at least once. And we would, without debate, we would announce the greatest center in NBA history is Akeem Olajuwon. But the confluence of Jordan not being there and the Knicks, and every New York fans turn everything into a New York conversation. So it's more, John Starks went 2 of 18 in Game 7. That's whatever. And the OJ chase just completely obscured that 2-year window.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
Right? But I feel like Akeem Olajuwon is the most underappreciated high-end Hall of Famer in any sport, period.
I think he's got a very strong legacy. Anyone who has like a signature move in the NBA, and he has the dream shake, that carries you a long way. Like Iverson will forever be the time Iverson crossed Jordan. I don't think he had to do. He could have retired right there, and his legacy would have been the exact same as it is right now.
And listen, nobody's going to Iverson crossover camp.
That's what I was about to bring out. Yeah. Hakeem has also reinvented himself. He's completely reinvented himself as one of perhaps the great con men of our time. With these camps he brings big men to who don't improve at all.
Their knives,
yeah, he's like, why don't you just be tall and score? I don't understand. That's what
I do this.
It is the Ted Williams syndrome. Like, teach us to hit, Ted. Like, well, just do what I'm doing. See the ball and smack it. Like, I don't know. That ain't working, man.
Is what I do. Yeah. I'll say this shit.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Coley. My bad.
No, I got nothing.
I was gonna say, which year? I need to know which year those Rockets beats Jordan, because I think his biggest obstacle to 8-0 is fatigue, not the Rockets.
I kind of agree. I think almost you could do a thing. I love doing the what if stuff, and I'm starting a new what if. Yeah, I love the what if stuff. That's why I have to fight for it at every turn. Like, I'm not gonna. Tom Brady doesn't get to dictate what I talk about, what I'm not allowed to talk about. It's ridiculous. I told Peyton Manning. Remember when Peyton Manning said in his Super Bowl year in 2015 with the Broncos, he said, like, whoever said I don't win in January can stick that narrative up their behind. I think he said, or something like that. And I saw him at the Super Bowl, and I said, hey Peyton, I'm the one who wrote that narrative. And I made a physical book. I made a physical book that said Peyton Manning doesn't win in January. And I was like, look, I wrote the book on that. Can I take it out of my butt yet? And he's like, no, keep it there. These guys, like, they think that they're in charge of how we talk about it. No, that's the one thing
you don't
get to do.
It's
I
never
get the
been
what
that
ifs
close.
things.
Yeah.
So I think the thing that you got to say about Jordan's Bulls is 6 finals, and there was no junk awaiting them in any of those
No.
series.
Yeah.
Magic Johnson. I mean,
Don't tell Twitter
was
that. Don't tell Twitter that.
Well,
Twitter
they were all plumbers. Yeah.
Yeah, they were all plumbers and white guys like you and I, Shek. That's who he was playing against.
I mean, the thing that his retirement. This is fascinating for your audience, I'm sure. A deep dive into the mid '90s, but the thing also that because he retired, because Jordan hangs it up. Imagine if he sticks around. They'd won 3 in a row. Also, then imagine if in Game 6 against the Suns with Chaz Barkley, the 62-win Suns. That was that team with Kevin Johnson and the Big O and Dan Marley and old man Danny Ainge and so on. That team, they got spooked by the mystique of Jordan. They lose the first 2 in Phoenix, but then they win 2 or 3 at Chicago. And then John Paxson hits the 3 at the buzzer and salvages the series. If that thing goes to 7 in Phoenix, I think Chaz and company win it. And then if you really dent Jordan and he's only 2-1 in the finals, the following year, it's not even really about the Bulls as much anymore. Now it's about, look out for Barkley and the Suns. But then Gary Payton and Sean Kemp are emerging, and David Robinson Spurs are on the rise, and the Pacers with the Dutch Treat and Reggie Miller are rising up, and the Knicks are a force beating everybody up, and the Heat are good. It could have been such a great, with all due respect to the Showtime Lakers and Celtics of the 80s and Golden State and otherwise, that could have been the best pro basketball stretch ever. If the 90s, if Jordan stuck around and they were not like, yeah, it's understood that Jordan wins in the end. Think about all those good teams that we could have watched. If the Suns or Akeem had knocked off the Bulls, our perception of Jordan and those Bulls would be completely changed by it.
Well, I've got another what if, and it's a little bit more grim, but since you were alive to watch
I know
it,
where this is going.
Yeah.
I like this one. I saw you tweet about this.
Yeah, what, in your opinion, happens, not even just to Jordan, but to the NBA if Len Bias doesn't perish seconds after getting drafted?
It's true that's a fun game to play, the what if, but for real, that Celtics team would have been dying. If you inject him in that's 86, right?
Oh, yeah.
They win the title,
and then
you put
pick.
Len Bias on the team. Because the thing that people sort of ignore a little bit as you get further away from these things, and by the way, the same thing I said about Jordan's Bulls is true, no matter however you want to denigrate Tom Brady. It wasn't junk that he was going through. Peyton Manning's Colts and the Steelers were good on one side, and they always would struggle for whatever reason with the Ravens. But, they beat some really guys. They disrupted what would have been a dynasty with the Seahawks in 49.
Oh, yeah.
That Falcons team, I mean, Matt Ryan would be, I know this sounds crazy, Matt Ryan would be a season or 2 away from the Hall of Fame right now if they just hold on to that game. There are a number of examples along those lines. They beat good teams, but in favor of your Celts in the 80s, the Lakers had a much easier path. Like those Celtics would have to go through Bill Laimbeer and Sidney Moncrief, Milwaukee Bucks, and Dr. J's and Moses Malone, especially once he gets there. I mean, those Sixers teams were great. They were both of those teams were better than anything in the West that the Lakers had to go through. They had to go through like Alex English and the Denver Nuggets to get to the final. Like we made this. Yeah, we're going to start our second 5. We're going to be good and rested for the Celts when they come in.
Even earlier, like they had to beat Jordan when he was like had no help around him, but was still putting up 63 by himself.
Yeah, right. Like, yeah, and I remember the Dominique, the one series against Dominique, but there were very few. There was very little of that going on in the West, and so they would pretty easily roll into the finals. And then it kind of flipped a little bit in favor of Jordan because the Knicks were good, but they beat you up is what they would do, and they were tough on the interior. But whoever was coming out of the West was a better team. It is an amazing stretch, by the way. Basically early to mid 90s, the West just starts to dominate and never takes its foot off the gas 25 years later. There's nothing like that in any professional sports league that compares to that. That it's that lopsided in one conference's favor. That works for Jordan. That worked out for Jordan well too.
Yeah, you never hear MLB like, well, should we get rid of the NL and AL because the NL has been dominating for 20 straight years? Like that's only basketball where that
It's
conversation
also
comes up.
Yeah, but if you drop Len Bias into the equation, that ceases to be true, right? Then
Right.
those two are battling. You know, like once he hits his presumed prime, you know, Bird and company would fade away, but still, you would think that that team would stay good if they had. But it's also like very rarely in sports, in off the top of my head at least, have the two best guys. And I don't know if Len Bias would have ended up being one of the all-time greats, but it seemed like he was tracking in that direction. It's rare that you have two guys that could both wear that title playing in their respective primes against each other. Right. It's more, which leads to those conversations. Like I guess I always talk about hockey, obviously Gretzky, Lemieux. It's like, well, they were playing at the same time. But I want, you know, if you had Len Bias and Michael Jordan on the same side of the bracket every year, I don't think you can assume that Jordan's Bulls are always getting to the final 6 out of 8 seasons.
Yeah, that's all I really wanted to hear. You brought up that Falcons game. Is there a play that comes to mind that in the moment seemed like one of the bigger plays of all time that now looking back actually meant nothing, like that Julio Jones catch?
Well,
like
that's the one.
When it happened, it was like, oh my God, because the physical ability he displayed, the time of the game, the ability to get both feet down, and then Matt Ryan loses a million yards, and now it's because NFL, it was the 100th year, so you guys did all these lists and what have you. And that wasn't even considered one of the 100 greatest catches. And I watched some of those 90 through 100. They weren't better than that catch.
That thing was so crazy, top to bottom. Your boy Belichick. I mean, it was like he was trying to show off for somebody. I'm not sure who, but like, look at who I know about. Like, I don't care. Dutch Clark. What? What is that?
He was a modern day Alden Smith, you know. No, we don't know, Bill.
No, because again, yeah, like it's when people try to do the Don Hudson thing, like don't try having a conversation about best wide receiver ever, and your list is invalid if it doesn't have Don Hudson. My forefathers were covering Don Hudson. Like, you know, Don Hudson's game would end, and then he would go work the third shift somewhere. Like, what? I mean, that's not comparable to Super Bowl era football.
He's not better than Terrell Owens. It's fine, but he's not. Yeah.
Right. Well, we can blur our eyes enough to be able to try and be like, all right, like if you get that guy in the weight room for a year and you know, treats his body right and train him with modern stuff, but like Don Hudson is not that guy. That guy's not elevating to that point. Like, let's stop lionizing the past to the degree we do. We could go on and on about the 60s Celtics and the 50s Canadians.
I don't know why the 60s Celtics would get brought up.
Well, because there were 8 total teams in the league, and we'd be like, Bill Russell. Oh, Bill Russell's the greatest NBA player of all time. Is he? He's the best. It was Wilt Chamberlain, him, and some 6'7" white guys. Like that was
his ass.
I would argue just beating Wilt Chamberlain as routinely as he did is as impressive as a feat there is.
That's embarrassing for 13, but for Wilt. But first of all, 8 total teams, and they would have 2 rounds. 2 rounds of the playoffs.
I think that's even worse. I think that's worse than the number of teams. Yeah.
The worst one is the Canadians of the 50s. The original 6, 25 years, a quarter century. The original 6 total hockey teams in a professional sports league. And do you know that you only had that
regional draft?
Right. You had first dibs on any guy who lived within a 50-mile radius of your city. So it's like, why'd the Canadians win all the cups? Well, because they were in Montreal. Like, that's why. Not too much puck going on in Chicago in the 50s. Like, you know what? Well, I guess that stands right. Like, we overrate these teams because we don't know what went on back then. So we just, Bill Russell, he won all those titles in a row. It's like, yeah, there were 2 good players in the league.
what I will say is no one like my age overrates them. It's like Bob Ryan. Yeah, Bob Ryan thinks John Havlicek would like lock up Jordan today. So yeah, like that's what happens there. But I'm the one always. I think Bill Russell's the greatest winner in team sports history, and I think he's a top 5 NBA player of all time.
All right, you have your train of
thought. Let me ask you this shit. What would it look like today if they just brought back the territorial draft?
I mean, that's something to swoon over, man. Think about how much fun that would be.
Yeah, I like that, and I like the idea of like the draft a guy and you can hold him. Like you draft Larry Bird, and it's like, listen, play your junior year. It's fine. We'll come back around.
Imagine how fun that would be if it was like, yeah, I mean, I guess that's how hockey kind of works, right? Like in hockey and baseball, you get if he's a high. That would be the most fun, because imagine the element that adds to the draft. You would draft. I mean, somebody would have drafted Trevor Lawrence in the first round at least a year ago.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Yeah, right. It would have been a year ago. Somebody would have taken him in the draft. Yeah, I'm all for that. I'm also for doing by city. Wouldn't that be the best? It takes. I don't work hard enough to put in the man hours on this, but if you have somebody who'll do it, is why don't you find everybody and cobble the teams together by city, where they're from, like not where they went to college, but where they're from, and see who has the best team.
Basketball talks about it a lot. I want to say like Southern California is pretty tough to beat, if I remember. And then Chicago is really good.
I would say Southern California is pretty much number one.
Is that right?
They got 2. Paul George, James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, Russell Westbrook, DeMar DeRozan. Like they've just got star after star after star.
There's a stretch there where Akron would have just had LeBron and Steph Curry. That would have been pretty tough to top.
That's pretty tough to top now.
Yeah, I was gonna say they might be 2. Basketball.
What an upset! Akron wins the City Cup.
Yeah, very.
That hospital alone, yeah.
Did you see that Griffey stat that went around a few weeks ago? Let me see if I can find it, because this feels like it's either directly up your alley or you're gonna poo-poo it as food.
Oh, I do know what it is. From Washington County, just a little south of Pittsburgh, PA. That was one of the all-time best things I've seen. By the way, I didn't know we were recording at the top, but I always like to say, I guess everybody who's listening already knows this. They're among the converted. But I got to say, you two individually have, I would say, in the world of Twitter, I would rank you both in the top 20, 25 Twitter handles to follow.
Oh, if you stop it.
Honored. Thank you.
I mean, I would put it like I should really put that together. I shouldn't just throw that out. My lists are everything to me. So I
get knocked out after you actually.
Yeah, we were like, actually, yeah, you guys are top 36.
Update.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tyler, you fell out of the top 50 as it turned out. I overstated.
No, listen, I get it. Greta Van Sesten's a great follow.
No, it really is. Both of you guys are hysterical on there. So muzzle tub on that.
Ken Griffey Jr. is second all-time in hits by a left-handed outfielder born in Donora, Pennsylvania on November 21st. I mean, Ken Griffey Sr. is really going to know these kind of things. Stan the man's the same day. He knows that. He can't have him born and that. Move the town over at least.
It's a good point, right? If you were an optimistic parent, you think you would do something like that. I always say the guy I always cite for the most optimistic parents that I can think of are the ones they didn't know that they had just birthed a Hall of Fame level defensive lineman who would then go on from his football career to be a star of the small screen on Father Murphy. I'm talking, of course, about Fearsome Foursome member Merlin Olsen. When they decided, let's name our masculine child after a fictional medieval wizard. Like, that's a lot to live up to. I love it.
He did well.
Merlin. Yeah. Like, his name's Olsen. He could just as well have been Seth. Would he have been, like if he's Gary Olsen, is he a member of the Fearsome Foursome? I have my doubts.
Librarian.
I'm all in. I feel like this is something your pal Simmons is all in on too. I feel like name the second the parents ink that birth certificate, you've pretty much cast that child's whole life into stone. especially when it comes to sports. If Rob Gronkowski wanted to be a quarterback, he's not making it. He's not making it.
That's right. So true. And then there's the sad irony that sometimes happens. Like Champ and Boss Bailey made it to the NFL, but just consider if they had wound up, either of them winds up a janitor. Like, hey, Champ, stall 3's clogged up, man. You got the plunger? Fix that one up. Like that would be.
I'll get it. I'll handle it. I'll take care of it. Yeah.
Can you get it, boss? You get it, Champ. I did it the last time.
I bet those toilets would be humming though. Those would be some pristine.
You're right, but it is high risk when you name a child. How's fatherhood going for you, Coley?
I can't complain. I wish it wasn't happening during this pandemic. I don't know if you've heard about it, but
I did.
Outside of that,
Talk about take won't stop ranking things. It's making me sick.
I don't know, and you're obviously more experienced than this. Everyone was like telling me like, oh, it's going to be terrible. You're not going to sleep, this, that, and the third. I feel like the real parenting isn't now. It's way further down the road. This feels like it poops, eats, and sleeps. There's not much it can do.
Yeah, like there are two ways, and I don't want to be the glass half empty guy for you. The glass half full part of this is, as I'm sure you've realized, you don't do a ton with a little one anyway. Like you're kind of housebound for the most part, so just as well. The other side is, though, the one thing I don't like when people give parenting advice all the time about like, oh, you're about to have a baby. The worst advice is when it's about like 6 weeks away from the baby arriving, is when people are like have your fun now. Like, oh, it's going to be like what do you want me to do, man? Like start a new life, just move to a new city and with a new identity? Like too late with
race car. Yeah.
With your counsel now. But I do say to people, like, I hate to say this, and hopefully this ends sooner rather than later for any number of reasons, but for you specifically, the thing that like people always say, oh, it's so hard, your life's about to change. Then the baby comes out and you get one of those carrier things that you just plug into the baby seat in the car and you go out. I discovered the first baby, it was like, this is completely overrated how hard this is. This is a dream. Like you can put that baby seat in any restaurant or bar. It could be super loud. That baby will sleep through anything. Like this is a cakewalk, but it's an illusion. It's a mirage, because in about like 6-8 months, all of a sudden that baby gets a little more lucid and then they start wailing and you're like, this is what everybody's talking about. But you have about 6 to 8 months where you can go out, throw one on, but good, just like you always have. And the baby will just sleep through all of it.
Yep. Well, I can see your first 6 to 8 months didn't line up with a pandemic where you can't go outside. So no, I cannot do that.
Check's like, you don't remember the Black Plague of 71? Yeah.
Now, before we get too deep into this, as I told you per our correspondence before this, I was either your first appearance on here, or very early on, where you and I both basically forced Tyler into watching Game of Thrones.
Oh, baby.
I feel like an apology is owed. I've apologized to him several times already.
I'll take another, but Shek, whenever you're ready.
Well, listen, at the end of Dirty Dancing, the late, great Jerry Orbach says to the late, great Patrick Swayze, he says to him, when I'm wrong, I say I'm wrong. And Tyler, when I'm wrong, I say I'm wrong. I feel bad about it. I should have known better after the great societal plague that was the show called Lost. I got sucked into that. Boy. I don't know how many hours I wasted on that. I don't want to look back and add them all up, but I remain vexed by the decision to stick with that thing. As I saw it going south, I was like, but they're so clever. I got to see the payoff. And then I got it, and I was unsatiated, to say the least. And I was like, I think Game of Thrones is going to get it right, though. Game of Thrones will make this right.
Check, I've got some bad news.
Wrong.
Yeah.
It was horrific.
Oh, boy. You remember how none of the things they set up matter? That was fun. That was a lot of fun. I really liked that part.
Exactly like Lost. Lost was even worse with that. It was like, and I like that you get credit. Again, it's sort of like when people listen to Tom Brady say like, oh, legacy is a dumb conversation. It's the same as when TV executive producers, showrunners, writers are like, no, those things are in there to distract you purposely. And like, oh, you don't get it, Tyler. those things were purposely in there. Well, that's stupid. It's a show. Like
I
don't need extraneous crap in there. I have plenty of that in real life.
Yeah,
Just tell me what I need to know here as we move along here. By the way, very quickly, Cole, I just thought of my answer, and I'm going to name drop the play in the Super Bowl of 28-3. I'm going to name drop Chris Long because Chris Long, I was yapping with him a couple weeks ago, and he said no one remembers that I drew the holding call that pushed. It was the Julio catch, and then what was it, a sack or whatever? But then they get the holding call. That's what pushes him out of field goal range. And he's like, I don't get credit for drawing the hold on that. And he said also, I thought that I had just committed a 15-yard roughing the passer. I thought that's why the flag was on the field. I couldn't have been more relieved to see that it was
disastrous. Oh boy, that would have been.
That's right. Get cut. Yeah.
That's right. That's the play. Like that's the one that nobody remembers that kind of swung that thing.
Well, it's tough for the team that wins because there's like I always going back to the Seahawks comeback point out, and I know you agree with me on this. When Hightower makes the tackle on Marshawn Lynch before the interception was equally as and arguably more improbable the fact that he had to bench press a what tackle was it?
I don't remember who was out there for them.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was Okung. Bench presses him up and then tackles Marshawn Lynch, the most violent rusher in the league for that time, with one arm. That was that, and then he does it again. I always go to Hightower because in both those games, the Falcons when he forces the fumble, when Devonta Freeman just decides not to block him for reasons unknown. So both those games, I feel like he's how many unsung heroes can a team have?
I also refuse to accept, and I know Patriots fans love to
try to contradict it. They did know. He called timeout. He didn't call timeout on purpose.
I refuse. I don't care what evidence there is against it. I don't buy it. There's no way. Like Belichick froze. Should we call? I don't know what. Well, now the clock's running. Just let it go there. There's no way that made any sense to do that.
You see his face. He's watching Pete Carroll the whole time. Who do you think's more cool, calm under those bright
without
lights?
question.
Yeah, Pete Carroll's got a whole pack of gum that he's chewing through, debating whether or not 9/11 was a hoax. Of course, he's the one.
Bill Belichick was a horrible college coach.
What is the one thing you can say is that Belichick did likely rob you of an extra Lombardi by benching Malcolm Butler. If Butler plays that game, he makes one play over 60 minutes and you win that Super Bowl. The other thing is, though, again, some what if for you that it really is one of the great what ifs is if the Tuck rule goes the Raiders' way, you can make a pretty good case that without the evidence of Brady then and aided by Vinatieri making the all-time craziest kick. We don't celebrate that enough. That the 40-something yarder he makes in the snow is impossible. Makes no sense that happened. But anyway, they win that game. Then they win in Pittsburgh with Bledsoe coming in. Then they win the Super Bowl. And then the Tom Brady mystique is off and running. But if the Tuck rule goes the Raiders' way, then it's like, well, the backup QB was the QB for the second half of the season. Like, then we start next season back with our multi-million-dollar man, Drew Bledsoe. I think it's much harder to make a case like, oh, yeah, Belichick would have gone with Brady instead of Belichick at that point. I think he would have gone back to 11. Ergo, I don't know when Brady ever gets to the field.
My argument would be Belichick was 0-2, was 5-13 with Drew Bledsoe between year one and the 2 games before Mo Lewis almost murdered him on the field. Why would he go back to that guy who Robert Kraft was like games away from firing Bill Belichick in the middle of year 2? You think he'd go back to the guy who gave him no job security or the guy who he carried as a 4th QB as a rookie year 1? I think he actually did believe in Brady. I don't think he would have went back to Bledsoe.
Yeah, see, this is that is no fun. I don't like when Patriots fans try to have an answer for all these kinds of things. It's the
you pitched me a question. Yeah. You asked me a question.
Yeah, you blew it, Mick. Yeah,
I know I'm right because I know I'm right. I know you're down.
I know you want to live in this world where Ben Roethlisberger has like 2 extra Super Bowls because you didn't have to travel to New England in January. I'm sorry that didn't happen. Enjoy your 6. I'm enjoying my 6. How long are you going to keep trotting him out there, by the way? Do you guys have another plan? I know we don't.
Poor Big Ben. You know, poor all the has to sit out a whole season. And what does he have to do? First, that 2019 starts for him with Antonio Brown attacking him needlessly, inexplicably, trying to make him the GOAT. No sense to that. And it ends with him having to watch from the sidelines with his ever growing massive beard and gut. And now all the fat jokes and everything. I mean, now I am legitimately a little bit sad that Brady's gone from the Patriots, because if they would be, even at 43 or whatever he is, if the Steelers could get him in the playoffs and Roethlisberger could finally vanquish him, that would be satisfying. As it is, though, I don't know all this stuff about like the Roethlisberger, this nonsense about Jameis Winston and all that kind of stuff. I don't get it. I think Roethlisberger is, at least for this year, he's only 38. That's not terribly old by 21st century standards, right?
I feel like guys playing a long time, like, listen, only one of them is Tom Brady, though.
Yeah, that's true also. Maybe that skewed everything. Just because Drew Brees keeps on playing and performs well in the dome doesn't mean that he hasn't faded away in the last couple seasons.
He also fades as the season goes.
That's what I mean. Yeah, right.
Like their season end, like everyone, you talk about plays that get overlooked. Drew Brees throwing that lollipop interception in overtime after the no call. Saints fans want to keep. They had the ball in overtime. Shaq, you understand? Like they could have still won the game. They chose not.
Michael Thomas that. Yeah.
When people do that thing of like, I don't understand. Again, it's that old thing of like trying to control the argument, and if you don't agree with it, then the person's being stupid or being childish and not appreciating it the way they appreciate it, and ergo you're wrong for being that way. But one ring makes such a difference with guys. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's so massive in the way we perceive players. And the best one is Drew Brees. Like he plays in the NFC title game. And what was that? 09, I think 08, 09. I think it was the year after the Steelers with the San Antonio catch against the Cardinals. But either way, I think that's right. Anyhow, they play Brett Favre's Vikings in that game, and Favre throws the overtime interception. If that doesn't happen, and by the way, if Adrian Peterson doesn't fumble the ball,
I was gonna say, he coughed it up a couple times. I remember that.
If any of those don't happen, if the Vikings win that game, Drew Brees is Dan Fouts. Drew Brees, like, oh yeah, he's a stats machine. He's never been to a Super Bowl though. How good are we? Now it's like you don't have Drew Brees and your 5 best quarterbacks of the Super Bowl era. It's like, well, I mean, yeah, I don't. I think he's a little a scooch overrated, and if you take that away, and by the way, if Brett Favre beats Elway and the Broncos in 32 and wins back-to-back and or wins it for the Vikings, then before Tom Brady at least, it's like, oh, yeah, well, Brett Favre's the best quarterback of all time. If Dan Marino wins one, if he wins one, if he gets to the 85 Super Bowl, to Super Bowl 20, the year after they lose to Montana in 19, they lose. They beat the undefeated Bears in the Orange Bowl in like early December, and then
he lit them up, didn't he?
They beat them pretty good. Then they were supposed to. It was supposed to be a cakewalk to get back to play the Bears in Super Bowl 20, and then Craig James, Mosey Tutupu, and the aforementioned Champagne Tony Eason pulled the big upset in that same Orange Bowl. And then you wind up with that bum Patriots team looking glorious in those uniforms.
They did.
A bum team nevertheless. Yeah. And they lose. They would have beaten the Bears. Then the Bears, nobody talks about them ever again. People don't talk about the 85 Bears in hushed tones about the greatest team of all time, single greatest season ever, all that jive. And if Marino gets that, then like he by the time he hangs it up, it's like, oh yeah, maybe he's the best quarterback. But Elway, because Terrell Davis came in the twilight of his career, is somehow rated higher than Marino is. That's a little bit of a reach.
Imagine if that happens to Brees right now. Like if Brees is basically Elway. Now he had one before, but if Kamara, they just run back to 2 straight. When you look back on things, it's like, oh boy, Brees had the numbers, oh boy, he had it all. I think that was basically Peyton's second. That last ring. Like when you look at in totality, you just see 2 rings. When you
without
look at
that
the performance,
defense, that's right. Peyton is the individual version of the 90s Atlanta Braves. Otherwise, without that Super Bowl 50, where it's like, really good, but yeah, man, when it came down to it, didn't really get it across the finish line very often, did he? Yeah.
It's why I'm glad that Mahomes won, so I can comfortably say he's the best football player ever.
That's right. Get in
Ever.
on that now. That's a great call to be riding that
Ever.
now.
Let me ask you
I
this.
don't hate it.
It's I've been asking people, if you're the Chiefs right now, how many first rounders from another team does it take you to even consider trading Mahomes? Like how many before it's like, okay, guys, we have to have a meeting? Is it like 8, like 8, 10? Like how many, like legitimately, how many?
I think that, again, the what if thing is what plays here. There's no way they would trade him now. There's
Not
nothing,
a chance.
There's nothing you could ever offer
Not for
the
100.
Chiefs to get Mahomes, even though the premise is going to change sooner rather than later when he signs for $45 or $50 million, and that is going to be where he's going to come down. It's like 45. I bet you he signs for 45 annually, and
I bet he's going to get 200. I'll guarantee.
Oh, I mean, whatever he gets. I mean, they're gonna pay him whatever he demands to get paid. But if he had lost, though, then if they don't win the Super Bowl, then maybe they'd be open to it a little bit as he comes up on that second contract that really changes the ability to build a roster around him. Now he's in a position of luxury. Now he never has to do anything again. He's in good shape for the rest of his career because in Kansas City, especially getting over the hump like that now, like, you know, as long as he puts up big numbers the rest of his way, I think you have a pretty good case to be made, because those narratives get written early in a guy's career. Like if Patrick Mahomes had lost this one, if he loses this year and it's like, man, Patrick Mahomes, I don't know, man, all world, but I think he's the next Marino, just never going to get over the hump with anything. But now that monkey's off his back, and now
he's golden.
Now he'd be a fan, if nothing else, a fantasy stud. It's all one more what if for you. I didn't mean to go down this rabbit hole with you guys talking about all these what ifs, but the fun thing to think about too is how important week 17 of this past season was in the NFL. And just look at the Seahawks. The Niners beat the Seahawks in Seattle. If that doesn't happen, there's no way the 49ers get to the Super Bowl if you look at how it tracks out. But the AFC side by itself, if Stephon Gilmore, the alleged defensive player of the year,
get his ass.
Well, I mean, TJ Watt should have gotten it, but that was, you know, like
Certainly not.
All right, make your point. Yeah.
I mean, talk about a do-it-all guy. I mean, TJ Watt did more than Stephon Gilmore, but okay. Stephon Gilmore in the biggest spot of the season couldn't take away Devontae Parker receiving passes from Ryan Fitzmagic. That drive doesn't happen. You guys are the 2 seed. The Chiefs are the 3 seed. In the last decade, it's something like before the Super Bowl, I was talking about it a lot. I think it's now like 17 out of the last 22, 17 of the last 21, or 19 of the last 23, or something like that. Well, that math doesn't work out. It would have to be an even number. But anyway, 19 of the last 22, something like that, have had a bye. So if you buy the recent history, then the Chiefs playing that extra round and 2 of those coming on the road means that they ain't getting to the Super Bowl. You guys would have been the 2 seed. The second round is Patriot. Wait, no, I'm getting confused. Oh, it's Patriots at Chiefs. Or I'm sorry, Chiefs at Patriots in the divisional round, and the Ravens would have rolled the Texans. So it would have been either you guys or the Chiefs in Baltimore for the AFC title, and it would have shaken out very differently. And it all really dates back to Devontae Parker not being stopped on that final drive.
He wasn't stopped the whole game. It wasn't even just one drive.
I know, but with the game on the line, you're like, all right, we get it. Like it's it's like watching Jordan in the 90s. Like, that's great. You're up 14 points in the fourth quarter. You know how this one ends, right? We're going to rally and beat you. It had that feel to it. It's like, all right, Brady's obviously going to end up winning this game.
Well, I told my friend earlier that day who bet them who bet the Patriots -17, -9, and I think -6 just throughout the course of the week. I was like, I wouldn't have done any of those. I don't know if we're even going to win this game. And then obviously we went out and lost. You don't think the Titans still can win? Because they don't miss the playoffs in that scenario, right? They're still in.
They'd have
would
been
go
the 6th seed.
They would go to the Chiefs, right? So Titans at Chiefs.
If you buy the way that happened.
Then no. Then yeah. Okay. Yeah. No.
I don't know though, because Tyler, I do think that there's something to. I don't get why it happens, but there's something to the momentum thing, or like a weird mystique that builds up around you, short term or long term. And nobody exactly saw the Titans coming. They knew Derrick Henry was on a roll, but I think if you drop that Titans team in the wild card round, they might have just banged away with Derrick Henry all day. And I don't know that game definitely goes the way the title game went. Maybe they would have surprised them the same way they did the Ravens in the divisional round. Maybe they just would have been, the Arrowhead crowd. Because by the way, there's also that history in Arrowhead too, that the home field advantage becomes disadvantageous when the whole crowd, especially one that is used to losing, and you're like, here we go again. That permeates down to both sidelines. You ask guys about that, they're like, oh yeah, man. When it starts going against you, like you get tight. And they're like, oh yeah, when you feel the home crowd turning against their team, oh yeah, you get juiced up. You feel when you start taking their heart like that, it makes you play even better. So maybe that would have ended up going that way. But yeah, I think it's funny that you can do that with football. You can do it with all sports, but for some reason, football more than any other seems to lend itself to that. Like if you change that one place result, the whole season winds up different.
I feel like you've only been doing what ifs since there are no sports right now. Like this is just where your brain is. I feel like you're completely built for a time like this. Not forever, but for a stretch. You can handle a time like this.
The three of us together figuring out things like the NBA City Cup, things like that. Yeah. Days are who needs actual live sports when we can have hypothetical conversations all day.
Oh, I can't wait to tell my kids about like how the Celtics were absolutely going to piece it together and win this one. That's not going to happen.
I've already got Kentucky's championship in the Raptor. We would have went on a run. 6 straights, really not that many.
Dave, the Pittsburgh Buckeyes, they was about to turn the corner. Them Buckeyes was about to start becoming a force in the National League, dudes.
Mm-hmm.
Yins don't know about them, but they got Jameson Tyone. Yeah, that
Chris Archer.
Yeah, that's it. Those are the only guys I can name at this point.
Sterling Marte, he's not even there anymore.
He's gone now. Yeah,
I was gonna say I don't know any.
Jameson Tyone.
Yeah, that's Josh Bell.
Yeah, all right. See, we got some stuff going over there.
Jason Kendall.
You're digging back now. Andy Van Slyke. Yeah, go way back. Pop Stargell, Kent DeColvey.
Something I found out yesterday. I don't know if either of you gentlemen know this. Ichiro played 27 professional seasons.
Oh my God.
Between Japan and
yes, he played 27 professional seasons.
Sheesh. That's like Jaromir Jagr. That's the only thing I can. Oh, I know Gordie Howe. Gordie Howe, like I don't know exactly what his story was, but I know he landed in the WHL when he was in his 50s for the Hartford Whalers. Played, I think, a season or something like that. Satchel Paige, how old was he when he was able to strike out?
Late 40s, right?
Yeah, I think he made his debut when he was 40. I'm 42, sticking in my mind, but he was like back and forth for a while too, because they were like, "Yeah, we're not so sure about you people."
Yeah. Imagine seeing that old man out on the ice, though. It's like, dude, we're playing against the team with the old man tonight. I'm gonna get his ass.
I don't like that. That's show off in my like at some point beat it now already. You know, like it ain't cool. Like you're an old man now. You know, you're taking away my self-esteem by being better than me at this sport at your advanced age. Not cool. You know.
Yeah, I feel like if you're like a place kicker, like Adam Vinatieri, everyone's like, "Yeah, that guy's great," because he's not really taking anyone's job.
Yeah, right. Like, yeah, Frank Gore. It's just, you know, that's humiliating what you just
around.
did.
Yeah.
You know, like think about somebody other than yourself. You know.
But Wilt, going back to Wilt, there are some, and maybe you know some about this since it was happening in at least Central, if not Western PA. Wilt was playing semi-professional when he was like 15, 16 years old in Quakersville.
For the Globetrotters, too.
Quakertown.
Oh, I don't know about – I know that he was on the Globetrotters at some point. What I didn't know until maybe 10, 15 years ago, they used to be, they weren't always like a sideshow kind of thing. They were a real team that would play actual teams and be able to actually beat the best teams. And I don't know if it was NBA in that era or what it was, but like the Harlem Globetrotters were this traveling band, like an AAU team or something like, I don't even know how exactly they would get their matchups. It was like prize fighting or something. Like, I challenge you to a ball game.
Yeah, they would just come to your town, whoop your ass, and leave.
Basically.
Virginia Tech tomorrow for some reason. Yeah,
that would be a matter of fact. That would be great. I would add a new wrinkle to the whole thing. So if like LeBron and 2 or 3 other guys, kind of like they did with the Miami Heat, were like, we're not going to play by your rules. Period. Now we're not going to just defy GMs and the billionaire owners and do the working class come together that the big 3 down in Miami did, striking a blow for the proletariat against the bourgeoisie. We're not even going to play your schedule anymore. We're just going to travel around. Who's the best this week? We're going to play them and put them in their place. Maybe we could get something like that going.
I don't hate it. And just
open
like challenges.
Yeah.
Hey, Durant, get your 5.
Yeah,
we got ours over here.
I think at some point, the reason people don't like that is because fans, we like that. Like, the reason that you can't get off of the 162 game schedule in baseball is because now all the numbers are tied to it, 154 into 162. And in a weird way, the thing for me when I hear like 17 game schedule, the first thing that hits me is I always feel bad. There was a running back on the Buffalo Bills in the early 70s, O.J. Simpson. And for whatever reason, people kind of ignore how good he was at pro football. Nobody really talks about how good he was.
He's a horrible actor.
That's right. He should have just.
That's a fatal flaw.
Yeah. As it were.
Fatal something. Yeah.
He is the only human being in pro football, or in NFL history, I should say, to actually run for 2,000 yards in my book, because he did it in 14. Everybody else required at least 15 to get to that number. And it's the same thing with college football now. They're like, hey, blank is the all-time passing leader at Oklahoma State. It's like, well, yeah, they play 2 extra games every. Why doesn't that count? Nobody ever mentions that stuff. That's the same reason why people like, I don't like these kids going straight from high school to the pros for whatever reason. It's because they're those old guys sitting outside the barbershop in Hoosiers. Like, they just want to control things because that's how they like it. They're the constants in the conversation as everything else rolls by. They don't like to change because it's going to disrupt the way they enjoy watching sports. But at some point, isn't that going to be kind of the way, like, why are we getting drafted? What's this nonsense of somebody is drafting us to do this? Why do we need you at all in this equation? Why don't we just form our own teams? The money will be the same. And in fact, we'll get much more of that pie if we just cut you out of it and do it ourselves. Someday that's going to happen, right?
Tyler's been pushing for it.
Yeah, that, or I feel like it starts, honestly, and I thought RIP, I thought Kobe was going to be the one to do it. Like, when somebody retires, be the one to go overseas and play for like $70 million. Play like one Italian season like that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And just see, like, okay, how that, like, okay. Because at that point, if it becomes a thing, you can negotiate owning interest or like whatever you want overseas. There's no, you can be your own Uncle Dennis for Kawhi over there.
Wait, you let people come in and out of the recording studio like that, Coley?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
I heard that door. Don't think I missed that.
Oh,
listen, it's gonna go.
What kind of shop you're running here? I don't know.
A shoddy one. That's what kind. Poorly run.
That's why I feel so at home. That's why I'm so comfortable with you guys.
Are you under the impression that Wilt scored 100 points in a game?
I am. I mean, yeah, if you want to disabuse me of it now, I'm open to it.
No, I'm for it, but there are a lot of people who think that landing on the moon just didn't happen.
Oh, really? I've not heard that good conspiracy theory.
Listen, there's no footage from that game, Shaq.
That's a good point.
No footage. He was playing. It was Philadelphia versus New York, right?
Yeah.
2 small markets, but I imagine you could find a photographer, like somebody in the Tri-County area. It's like, yeah, this Chamberlain kid's got 68 at halftime. Like
that's the point, right?
Yeah.
Right. That people weren't
Okay.
just right.
Like what?
This doesn't predate the age of automobiles or anything. It's not like
Right. Yeah. This was 1852.
jump on your horse and get over there ASAP.
Yeah.
This kid Chamberlain's got a lot of points going, and it's just a half, don't you know? Like, yeah, they reasonably could have dispatched somebody. Maybe there wasn't somebody holding a cell phone there, but there had to be a camera within a couple of blocks of the arena, right?
They got the picture of him holding 100. Like a photographer walked in just as he was leaving the locker room and was like, "What I miss?"
Convenient.
Like,
Maybe
I need
too
something tomorrow
convenient.
for the Picayune, man. Like, you got to hold this sign. Like, I need you there.
I'm going to make a star out of you. See,
Yeah.
Will Distill? I'm
We'll
going
go
to say
far.
you hit triple
Yeah.
digits, the century mark.
So they don't have that game, but I saw this today. He apparently had a game where he put up 53 points, 32 rebounds, 16 assists, 24 blocks, and 11 steals.
24 blocks. This is what I'm talking about. That's not to be like the skewed numbers. It is remarkable. The sport that's changed. People always said since I was 9, people have been saying, the next big sport in the U.S. is soccer. And I guess in the last 5 or 10 years, it's kind of made some advances in that. And then it was like, then it was NASCAR. That's the 5th major sport now is NASCAR. And that really has never come to pass. The one that it's true of is women's basketball. Women's basketball is so much better. I remember playing. This is anecdotal and proves nothing, but I remember playing basketball in a pickup game in a Pittsburgh gym with some of my pals, and a couple of the starters from the Texas women's team had just won the national championship, and they came in and they joined our pickup game, and they were at best the 4th and 5th best players out there. Like, I was like, well, this is ridiculous. Well, how serious am I? And 10, 20, 15 years ago, I am certain that I could cobble together among my pals a group of 5 that could beat the Yukon Huskies of 15 years ago.
I don't know about that.
15 years ago. 15 years ago.
That was like
Now-
Tarasi.
That's what I'm saying.
That was Tarasi.
Sue
Maybe
Bird
I'm
was
getting
like 15 years ago at this point. Like,
But the exponential
Rebecca Lobo,
improvements.
like,
Rebecca Lobo is
she would have had
tall
you in
for
hell,
a woman.
Shaq. Yeah.
Rebecca
She's like
Lobo's
6'4".
tall for a
Okay.
woman.
I get it, yeah.
Well, all right. Well, I have friends that are 6'2" and 6'3" and
Oh,
outweigh
look-
Rebecca Lobo by 40 pounds.
Look at you. Yeah.
Not me. I'm not guarding Lobo.
Shaq's like, I'll get my big boy friends and we'll beat the girls.
Get her. Yeah.
I told you, ladies, you were no match for us. Well, mostly for the 4 of them and me. But now it's laughable. Now it's ridiculous.
Oh,
now,
yeah. No, I agree with your overall point. Your overall point is spot on. They've progressed, and that was the whole point of the WNBA, was to make it grow. And what they just said, their 25th year. Is that right?
Crazy.
That
By the
sounds
way,
right, yeah.
I also, just so I
97,
don't seem
sure.
baldly misogynistic, I also think that if you let me pick the other 10 guys, if you gave me the ball at my own 35-yard line, I could lead a points scoring drive at quarterback against an NFL defense.
I agree.
I would be a lot of run plays. But
Which
Dameshek,
position- you're saying you're calling the plays or you're playing quarterback?
I'm the quarterback. That's right.
Okay.
A lot
Not
of
a
it.
chance.
Why?
Not in the
Why not a
slightest.
chance?
I don't know if in this climate, I'm not sure I want to continue. I
Listen, Shaq, I know you've got that howitzer attached to your cannon. I know where you're attached
Thank
to your
you.
shoulder. I know where you're from.
all right, but listen
But-
to what I would do. Here's what I do. A lot of
Listen to what
Dameshek-
Aaron Donald would do. He'd
I-
eat you.
Yeah, listen. This isn't my pals blocking. This is I'm taking the Dallas Cowboys front or whatever.
They can't block Aaron Donald either.
It's a good point.
Well, I didn't say Tyler gets to pick the defense either.
Oh,
Maybe
okay. No, I was gonna say, yeah, that's fair. Who we going against? What kind of?
I don't know who's the worst defense in the NFL. Let's do that because that would still be an impressive deed.
So you versus like the Bengals.
Yeah, got to
first
be the
overall
Bengals
pick.
or something, right? Yeah.
Okay, it's the Bengals defense
Okay.
against my hand-picked guys, And then there's a lot of play action from Dameshek.
Your handpicked guys in the NFL.
A lot of play action, lot of run plays, but it's all just setting up the one play action pass. This is when I go like, Dez, this is the one. This is the one. And then play action. Oh, everybody bites. Dameshek rolls a little bit to his left.
Clowney bites. He's out of the play.
50. I don't know what I did to deserve this. I thought.
Shek, I'm on your side. I don't disagree.
I didn't say it had to be a touchdown. It might be. It might be a touchdown. I might go all the way. I might do like in 1958, the Colts. They could have just kicked a field goal and won the championship. They said, no, let's put it in the end zone. Maybe that's what I would do too. I don't know yet. I'm not there yet to do it.
Now, Shek,
I have to feel the atmosphere first.
I feel like you have the strings to pull where we could set this. Like, no one watches the Pro Bowl. You know how you get this man to watch the Pro Bowl? You get Dameshek out there on
yeah.
drive. You leading one of the Pro Bowl squads. They sub in the Bengals for some unknown reason. for
10
your
grand
time.
on the line, 100 grand on the line. It's got to be more than it.
I completely agree. I don't know why they really like bum baseball teams. Like 81 games you got to get people out for by like July or August. It's pretty clear your team ain't going anywhere for certain organizations like the Pirates. Why don't they do a thing for real? I know it's like, oh, that would be so unprofessional. Who cares? It's a ball game. They should really like, lucky ticket holder in section 31, you get to play left field for the next half inning. Like they should, that would be the greatest. Like call people down out of the stands. That would get people out.
Let kids be pinch runners. Let it like a 9-year-old be a pinch runner. Be like, all right, you're in at second base. There's one out. Right. So watch that old man over there. He'll tell you what to do.
It would be adorable. You would watch every game too. Like, we only won 32 games out of the 162, but man, it was a lot of fun. My uncle Glenn. Did you see that catch he made in against the Phillies? That was
him at the hot corner. That was him.
My solution, as you may know, for the Pro Bowl is the loser bowl, and you have the two worst teams by record play each other for the first overall pick. That is the solution. Now, some creeps will tell you like, well, the NFLPA would never sign off on that because they don't want to expose themselves to injury. I say, money, honey. They'll play if we.
They literally just did.
Like, right. You say we'll give you extra money to
all
play
the
in
teams.
it. Yeah. And then other cynics, I've floated this idea to luminaries like Peter King, and I appreciated that Peter King took it seriously enough to say, but what about the quarterback? Why if you're the incumbent, let's say you're Andy Dalton, perfect. If you're Andy Dalton, why would Andy Dalton try? Because if he wins, then you're going to draft his replacement.
On the other side, Haskins or Chase Young, like whichever guy, like the same thing applies.
Right. Well, but also it's like, I don't know. That's like, hey, we like to run the ball, but the other team has the best run D in the like. Yeah, you have to figure it out. You're the head coach. I don't know. What are you going to do? Maybe you don't start Andy Dalton.
Like, listen, I've had 15 games to figure it out, and I couldn't. You think I'm going to start now? Like, what?
Right.
Yeah, Andy Dalton, like, coach, I don't want to win this game. All right, then Andy, you're benched. You know, like what I'm shipping you off to New England anyway. You don't think that's going to happen?
NFL lottery, though.
I think it would have already happened. Like, why wouldn't it have already happened?
I don't know. Well, I don't know. But, another thing that happened forever was for like 50 years or something like that until I think it was 77. Do you know that the college all-stars used to play the reigning NFL champ? That's preposterous in the 21st century. Can you imagine if they did that right now? First of all,
Patrick Mahomes just picking apart.
The draft used to be like 20 rounds. Can you imagine that? Or even in my lifetime, it was 15 rounds at one point, which now is over long. But yeah, in my lifetime, the Terry Bradshaw and the Super Bowl champion Steelers. Terry Bradshaw, the Super Bowl champion QB of the Steelers, got sacked by Randy White. No, not of the Dallas Cowboys. No, it was before he got drafted. It was by Maryland Terp. Randy White sacked Terry Bradshaw in a game. What? What would happen if we played that game now? I mean, that's the one we got to bring back.
I think it'd just be on the other end. Yeah.
Didn't the colleges win sometimes?
Yes, that shows you how bad.
That's
That's how you know that's the best evidence ever against Don Hudson.
Right.
Or like, oh, well, but you were doing your best QBs, but you didn't mention Otto Graham. Like, yeah, because football didn't matter then. That's because Otto Graham and his pals lost to Red Grange. You know, that. I understand I'm getting the period wrong. You don't have to drop me a line on Twitter. They happen to have not crossed over by 11 years. Like,
if part of the scouting was the Bengals, it would be the Bengals here playing LSU. They're like, okay, let's see what this Burrow guy's got.
By the way, I love the thing that he's from. It's not like, Mario Lemieux didn't want to go to Pittsburgh when they drafted him because it was a losing organization. It had zero history. He grew up in Montreal. He saw himself as a child. He saw Guy Lafleur and company hoist the cup on multiple occasions. Then he has to go put on that Penguins jersey, move to Pittsburgh where they speak English, not French. I get him being like, I don't want to do that. And then he eventually came around on that. But Joe Burrow is from not just Ohio. He's from that part of Ohio. And he's like, I don't want to go to the Bengals. I love how
I wouldn't.
I wouldn't either. But now they're in a hysterical spot that it's like, well, we have two choices now. We could just like give in and be like, yeah, even the guy from this neck of he knows what we are. He doesn't want to be here. Let's just trade it away. Or they draft him and have him hate it and go bad. And then
shouldn't he just
the blackest mark in the history of black marks for the Cincinnati Bengals?
But
he should Eli.
If he just Eli's is like, I will not play there. I want to trade to, I don't even know who else is in the top 5. I want to play for Matt Patricia, damn it. Yeah, no, he wants to play for Miami or the Giants are like 6. He's like, I want to play in New York.
Then I think you just have to move or something, or
you would trade,
disband the team or something. Like, we can't come back from this. Yeah. We can't. What are we gonna do? The kid from imagine it's the equivalent again. Like how about a New England kid? Like you got drafted by the Patriots. Like no, thank you.
Yeah, I'm good.
Hey,
no.
Guess what? Hey, son. Hey, James Conner. You grew up in the area. You went to Pitt. Guess what? Want to wear the black and gold as a professional football player? Like, no, thanks.
Not particularly, no.
No, I do not.
If you're gonna force it on me, I suppose.
I was excited until now. I mean, that's what Joe Burrow's doing. That really is embarrassing.
He's like, I should have thrown all those touchdowns. Yeah, I should have shown off at LSU.
I could have tanked a couple, right? Like I had 60 touchdowns. If I had like 52, they might take Tua first.
He starts talking up Tua from now till the draft. Like, you know what? I'm good, but if I had to take one guy to win a game in this draft, I'm going to take Tua. Might want to pay attention, Mike Brown.
He's like, listen, I know there's an East Coast bias, but this Herbert kid, you talk about a guy you can select.
I've talked to him. All these issues about like how he comports himself. I'm here to tell you, not true. I mean, he handles himself a lot. He's definitely smarter than I am. Cincinnati Bengals.
Oh, well, take it first.
So I wanted to talk to you guys. I'm moving it along to.
Please do. We never move it along. We go to the depths of a topic until it's not even funny anymore.
I do love the idea. Well, that's where I cut out the middleman and I start out at unfunny, and then people don't have any expectation for it to get better. You understand? You guys start up high, and then we see your decline, and then people resent you for that. Not me. People are like, we know what this is. Junk, with me. But yeah, I'm intrigued by, I've been thinking about that a lot, and I keep talking about what did people do? I mean, like 19th century, I mean, the idea of being happy as a human being, unless you were super rich.
I'm so no.
I mean, that idea could have only come along in the last like 100 or so, 200 years. The notion that like, this is the delight to walk the planet Earth. Yeah, I wake up, I must immediately find food for myself and loved ones, and I will spend the next 16 to 18 hours doing that, and then I'll do that again for the rest of my life. I prefer to do this before I die at the ripe age of 26. Yeah, right. That it really is very strange that that's so long ago you can't even relate to it. But your point about if this were happening in the 70s is striking and sends a chill up my spine and somehow makes me feel thankful that at least it's happening when we have satellite dishes.
Yeah, and it still stinks with everything we
Awful.
have right now. It still stinks out loud. So I can't imagine. I don't know. Maybe we would have just been used to it back then. I don't know.
We don't know how to play the guitar. Yeah.
Yeah, those are the kind of things you would be left to do, like self-improvement kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you. It really. But the weird thing for me is, and this is every day for me since this started, every day goes by in a blur. Everybody keeps talking about like, this is crazy. What's happening? Every day I'm like, wow, it's 3:00 in the afternoon. Wow, it's dark outside. I don't know. It goes by. I don't know what the hell happens. And I legitimately wonder what it's going to be like when it's like, yep, the world's starting back up. I have a feeling I'm going to be kind of like, okay with the last 6 weeks. They weren't all bad. It would be nice if sports were on TV. But other than that, better than doing work and everything.
What can you do?
Yeah, I don't hate this.
Yeah, Pirates are on. Okay, all right. Thanks for telling me.
Is watching a Pirates game really an upgrade? No, I'm knocking around the house with my little ones, getting to jag around with them. That's beating life in my book.
Yeah, the only thing I don't care for is when I do venture out into the world to get supplies. I don't like the thought in the back of my head like I could be bringing it back with me. If we could have everything as is and just remove that one part of it, yeah, I'm all in.
What jumped out to me last week was because Tom Hanks, this whole thing really got kicked into high gear by the Denver Nuggets, and then like 12 hours later, Tom Hanks has it too.
Yeah.
And Tom Hanks, it's interesting. Tom Hanks met his wife Rita Wilson, who also had it. They were stuck with the Rona out in the Pacific Ocean, out in Australia, and they met while making the movie Volunteers. The story. Do you ever see the movie Volunteers? Early '80s movie. It's not great. Not terrible either though. They got John Candy in it, but he's a New England highfalutin guy who gets into gambling trouble, and to avoid having his legs broken, he jumps on a plane that turns out to be the Peace Corps in the late 60s. and he goes to some random island in the Pacific.
Is that what that Simpsons episode's based off of? It must be.
Wow, maybe, yeah.
The one where Homer all of a sudden is just in the middle of the Pacific after he pissed off PBS and they chased him out of town.
I think you've got it backwards. I think The Simpsons was first, Mick. Some 20-odd years later, yeah.
That was another discovery I made about a year ago. Are you ready? This is a crazy thing that is hard to accept. I always have made fun of, I love my fruit. I like to rank fruits and the good and the bad and all that. And I was getting after a few years ago the grapefruit for lack of originality in naming, at least. Like the guy at the fruit factory is like, we got to come up with a name for this thing. Like this big yellow orb. Like, what should we call it? Like, well, you know what? It's almost 5:00 on Friday. Let's just go with grapefruit. Like nobody at the factory was like, well, we can't do that. There's already a fruit called a grape. And by the way, it looks nothing like the thing you're holding right now. And they're like, yep, let's just go ahead with that.
He's like, this is grapefruit. Sign that in.
Yeah, we got fruit that's grape. That's a grape. We already got it. That is not acceptable. That's the one name I guarantee you we cannot go with is that. By the way, pineapple is playing fast.
Dangerous.
Yeah.
But grapefruit in the history of names is the laziest thing I've ever heard. But then
orange.
Yeah, orange is pretty tough.
It's just the color. It's like
now get ready for your jaw to hit the floor, Tyler.
Oh boy.
Lay it on me.
I brought that up. Then I went in on the orange. Like grapefruit for his
what's this thing's deal?
Next act. Now I'm gonna name the orange circle. And it shall be called the color that it is. Except, guess what? The color orange is named after the fruit not the other way around.
Wow.
I said, what?
How
Wait,
do you know?
the fruit existed before the color? What? I don't understand.
That is
like how
why, yeah.
there was not a name for an orange somehow.
What were they called?
I don't
How
know.
were they
Talk about
described?
lazy.
Well,
It's like the fruit. Yeah. It's like,
what were they doing when a carrot came? We're like, oh, can you grab me one of those long vegetables? Oh, you mean celery stalks? No. And then, like, how would you even describe a carrot?
the
I
one
like
that's the
apple
color of the
juice.
orange one. Yeah.
Apple juice is good. Cranberry juice is good. But my favorite kind of juice is that other fruit that we haven't named yet. How crazy is that?
I know
How
exactly
crazy
which
is that?
juice you're referring to. Like,
You know what I mean? It's not red. It's not yellow. It's kind of like in between.
yes,
you know?
no.
We should name that. Yeah, next decade, next
One
century.
day, yeah.
What the hell? How is that possible that the color didn't exist before the fruit did? I don't get it. But anyway,
That's preposterous.
I'm fascinated by that. I forget what we were talking about because I was going to. Oh, so Tom Hanks. And then wouldn't you know it? So he's off in the Pacific. Third go around of that. Real life Australia recently. Way back in the early 80s in the movie Volunteers. And in between a movie called Cast Away. A play on words, not cast away, but cast away by society, his lady love, and otherwise, because there's a split. So, in Castaway, you've seen the picture, right? They've been playing it quite a. You've never seen this movie?
No.
I can usually. I know what happens. I know what happens.
Well, then forget. I'm not talking to you about it. Then I'm not.
Hey, he holds the volleyball. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. He comes back. His wife's moved on. Yeah, we know.
Which nobody. Yeah, the volleyball was. Yeah, I was trying to work in some reference back to the orange, but because they're both orbs. But it's enough about. I don't want to talk about that. Let's talk about our inventions instead. I invented ESPN Classic before it existed. When I was like 11 years old.
Chet Tapper.
Yeah, well, when I was like 11 years old, I said, you know what they should do? They need a thing where they just show all the old games. And all my friends and family poo-pooed it. They said, who would ever watch games that they already know the outcome to? And I said,
we already watched
for
those.
one.
Yeah.
And now I'm owed a debt of gratitude by society because that's all we're doing right now.
And billions by ESPN.
Yeah, right. I know.
Yeah.
That was one invention that I had. I invented some other stuff too recently. What did I
And if L, you invented that.
I invented that. I will say that I was thinking about because you said that you guys have been talking about inventions.
Yeah,
And
like our favorite inventions of all time. Just
Either favorite, best, whatever. Like these are the Mount Rushmore. One podcast would say.
Yeah, I heard about that. To me, this is like an easy answer. If it's not TV, then it's cooked food. Because think about imagine what would have had to happen. How did anybody ever figure out cooking a cow? Whoever decided, like, okay, our ancient forefathers, our prehistoric forefathers, they might bite into some raw meat because they needed the sustenance, and you might pick things off of trees and put them in your mouth. And imagine the rate of death too. Like, nobody knows what's poison.
Yeah. People keep dying. I don't know what the deal is. Yeah, let's go with that cow. Yeah.
Right. Again, back to the subsistence living for the vast, vast majority of the human span of like one person goes out and tries to get food all day. The other one just must be pregnant incessantly because probably 2/3 of your kids would die tasting berries and stuff to figure out what's poison and not.
They made it that far, honestly. 9 months? I mean, come on.
Exactly. But I love to think about the idea of how did a cow get cooked for the first time? And they're like, you know what? When you bite into that hairy beast over there and like it sustains life, try it over a flame. And then you really.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, a litlittle medium. Yeah.
Ernie, you've had too much to drink, man.
But crazier than that is wine. It's one thing to crush up the aforementioned grape and drink it, but who was like? How did it happen? Was that like they had to have stumbled into it, right? Whoa,
Yeah,
guess what? All the grape, we don't have to wait till spring for the new vine of grapes to grow. I just found an old bottle of it right here. And then like 30 minutes later, that guy was like, I love you. You got a butt that won't quit. You know, like
I feel like it was kind of the other way. Like it was like, oh boy, we've squashed all these grapes with our feet. We're ready to drink the fruit of our labors. And one man or woman was like, wait. And they just waited for like 30 years.
You don't have to drink it
glass
all
of
right now. You could wait
Yeah,
3 years and then we'll see how it tastes.
Best bottle I ever had.
It's fascinating. Like the time spent in researching all those different things, like a poached egg and all that. Who decided, let's do that? Let's cook up. And all that stuff is bizarre to me. And if you put me in the time machine at those seminal moments when people are like, whoa, that cow that we have walking around with us just died and it fell right into the fire and it happens to smell delicious. I would have gotten in the way of that. I've been like, no, that's the stuff of the devil. Don't do it. Like I would. I would have ended all that. We're
gonna burn you on that fire. You keep talking crazy.
Yeah, right.
I want to meet the guy who looked at just a regular old ear of corn and was like, you know what? I bet we can make some chips out of this. That guy's a psychopath and should be promptly arrested.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. Yeah. Like the raisin makes sense. You know, that was pretty, you know what? I mean, these are still happen to be edible. They're gross looking.
But yeah, these weren't bad. My old man likes them. So, yeah.
But yeah, like what if we take all the corn off that, just meal it down, and then sprinkle some Doritos seasoning on it? I bet we can sell these by the trillion.
I was also thinking about the one invention that I think we should have is the coffee. I've suggested before, like, wouldn't it be cool if there was some way to do a coffee IV so that like you set it? If they can do that with blood and medicine when you're in the hospital, you could hook yourself up to an IV at night and like have it go off just like your coffee maker does before you wake up, but it pumps it straight into, and that's your wake up every morning. You just wake up ready to go, like your eyes open up. That actually reminds me of an overrated creation. The human being. The human being.
Strong agree.
Everybody always is going on and on about like it's the ultimate machine, the human body. This is the perfectly constructed. It's like, well, it's not, because we have to sleep and we have to poop and we have to pee. Like what perfect would be eliminating the need.
We also die.
Yeah. We that's the other thing. Yeah, that is also true.
Disease takes us down real easy, as you can see.
Yeah.
And like we're supposed to rule the planet because of our intellect and all that, but on the other hand, are we really the best? Because it takes us at least a year to be able to walk. Birds are born, and the same day their mamas push them off the branch and like, better figure out how to fly. And I don't know, maybe some of them die when they hit the ground, but I think most of them they figure out how to fly between the branch and the ground. Somewhere they take flight. I think that we're a little overrated in the hierarchy of these things.
Oh yeah, most animals come out like baby elephants. They got to start walking the second they hit the ground. Otherwise, they're done. We're the only ones that it's like, no, you. And I was thinking about this too, harkening back to the first cow eating days. I feel like babies couldn't have possibly cried back then because of wolves and whatnot. There's no chance they were crying. There's no chance. That's a millennial-ass baby problem.
That was like 71? Like...
Yeah, the first baby. It just...
Gerald like, Ford brought in the baby.
Being like quiet and like hiding back then was like even just a rival family would come over and just club everything you own and just take it. Like there's no chance babies used to cry. None.
Or it's like, you know, they always do that move. They always do that move when the bad guys are creeping closer and closer and they're right around the corner and they're about to get you. And then somebody throws a stone and it like makes a noise. They're like, what? Well, over there. And then they go the other way and that gives you time to run away. Kind of thing. Maybe that's what the prehistoric people did with their babies. Instead of a stone, it was just a baby. Like, hey, wolves. Whoop. Like, over there. Look, it's over there. Like, listen, Toby's gone, but we get to live on in his honor.
We call
tried.
it
It's his fault.
Yeah.
He should have been talking so much.
I like to do this game. Let me ask you guys this. I can't tailor it to exactly the way you want, but I think it's fairly universal. Win, play, show. I'm going to give you 4 items. And I can't tailor them exactly.
But those are only 3 things you listed, Shaq. That means
Yeah.
I won't be able to list one.
Hear that? Win, play, show. That's exactly right. That and so begins the intrigue.
Okay.
TV. Now you have to tell me booze or the weed, which one or the other. We need the subsection there. You have to say goodbye to one or the other for the rest of your life.
You can take the booze from me. I don't know what Tyler is going to say. We might not get an answer for days.
I'll have to do some research. No, yeah, booze can go.
Booze is gone. Okay, I just wanted to. Okay, so TV, the weed. Is that what Stephen A. calls it now?
Oh yeah, sure does.
Yeah.
The weed.
Copyright.
Are you guys? You guys are doing the weed.
Yeah. Stay off the weed. Yeah.
You guys are smoking drugs. Okay, fine.
Boys doing that reefer.
Sex. You guys are cool, right? No, TV, weed, sex, and pizza. Now.
Oh shit!
Whatever goes number 1, you can have whatever you want for the rest of your life. Number 2, the play spot. You can do it whenever you want, once a week. The third spot you can only do once a year. The other one you never get to do for the rest of your life. TV, weed, sex, pizza. It's a mind bender.
Let's see, sex never again. That's just, I thought we were like talking about things that like switching
never
up
again.
Yeah, hypothetical. Yeah, you know what I mean. Nah, I don't. Sex, TV, weed,
pizza,
and oh boy. Now say the one I can have say the Win Play show again.
Every day, once a week, once a year.
Yeah, pizza once a week feels good.
Yeah.
Really? You're going to save pizza? Man, you're giving up something.
Yeah, sure am.
Sex once a year? Like, boy, oh boy. I cannot wait until August 3rd. Oh my God. I cannot. It's your birthday, Matt? No.
Well, you're getting rid of weed or television.
It'd be fun. I haven't considered with this dumb game. I like to ask people, what if the whole world had to do it, the exact same thing, and then you're like, what are you going to go with? And like you'd line it up with people. You try to get it in the same. Because what if your lady friend was like, well, I'm doing sex every day, and you're like, well, I just went once a year. Like, well, you made your choice. I made mine. Yeah. See you next August. You know.
Yeah.
Where are you tonight? Like, don't worry about it. You don't want to know where I am right now. Anyway, go ahead.
I might could only TV. I might could go without TV ever again, as I think. Like, really? I can still have, I still have movies, documentaries, like video games, internet, all that other stuff. Like, I'm not a huge TV guy, so that's why, like, once a year would do nothing for me. Once a week, I thought, like, if I have a favorite show or something.
That's interesting, right?
Yeah. Like one, it's like, okay, yeah, you get to watch the Super Bowl. It's like, I don't know anything that happened before. I'm good. Like, I'm sorry. Yeah, I might could go TV every day. I might go pizza every day. Weed once a week. Like, boy, oh boy, I can't wait to smoke this weed with this pizza.
Wow, that's crazy. The pizza, because very often, I've asked this to a lot of professional athletes, and then they're like, well, I don't eat that much pizza anyway. Because they're watching their figures. Yeah. But so then I elevate it to Italian food, like making all Italian food. That makes it way more difficult.
Definitely does.
Which way you leaning, Shaq? How do you have these?
Well, sex is out for me. I've had more than my share of issues as a result of it. As the least masculine man that I've ever known. it's sadly ironic that nobody comes through in clutch time like Dameshek does. I mean, 4 children? It's enough already. It's ridiculous. Nothing good comes out of that.
Dave Craig Counsel Dameshek.
He's just putting numbers on the board.
Yeah.
The Craig Counsel of surprisingly vigorous lovemaking, and effective, potent lovemaking. I'm the most potent, most potent lover walking the big blue marble right now. That guy? Wait, him? No, that's
the very same. Yeah.
No. Wait, who? Behind his pot belly? No, him. That guy. Wow.
As virulent as they come. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I would have a hard time. I'd have a hard time with. TV's always been my friend. TV through. Long stretches of girls not talking to me and, the ups and downs of life. The one constant has been my dear friend TV. I don't know how I could shelve him to once a week, shame the devil once a year. I mean, I think I'd have to have TV above everything else.
I agree. If you go TV, it has to be every day. Because again, I don't think once a week does enough for you. I don't think once a year does anything for you.
I would hope that whoever establishes I like that I'm applying like fine print to this. Like once you make your decision, you have to choose the day of the week.
Right.
Like the TV schedule would really be important to what day you choose. Like, wait, Friends got canceled? Like I want to change my day. I don't want to
It's not the NFL season. Why? I'm stuck with Sunday?
Yeah, that'd be tough.
Yeah, right. So yeah, maybe like once a year get to say like it's going to be this day of the week that I get to watch, or the TV guide would be. It's as though I'm living in 1981. So people are referencing the TV guides. Like,
yeah, you have to stand up to change the channel. We got you.
And I don't like Friends either. I don't know why I said that, but now I feel like I'm trying to be cool by saying I'm not in on Friends, just so we're clear. I was just using that as a easily accessible sitcom reference, but it's fine. It's not terrible. It's also not great. If I just wanted to, I have to let people. I don't like. I have to share that with you because when I'm in a restaurant with my wife, and it makes me crazy.
Y'all remember those? Y'all remember going to restaurants?
I know it's weird, but I always felt like I always have to make it clear early on in the conversation. If it was like, yeah, I'll have a drink, and then she doesn't get a drink, that it's like I don't want the waiter to think we're on a first date, and she's like, I don't like this guy, that's why I'm not having a drink. Like he can have all the drinks he wants. I'm making this nice and quick, 45 minutes in and out, and then goodbye. And so I always have to let them know that like we're actually together and we have children and stuff like that, because I can't deal. I'm too vain for the waiter to think that like I'm on a first date that isn't going well. So that's why I also have to tell you guys right now that I'm not into Friends, but I'm not into Friends. It's fine.
Sure.
No, Friends was bad.
All right. Well, I don't want you to judge me one way or the other.
Yeah. I don't think that will ever change. I think I'm pretty comfortable saying that.
Well, Friends, it's well known it was just a ripoff of In Living Color, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I can't imagine why you would
show.
Pretty much. They were just like, what if we did
Spider-Man?
What if we did this with white people? I bet others would like that. And that's what happened.
Yeah.
You're young enough, Coley, that it doesn't stand out. But it's funny that like when people make their decisions forever ago about like Bill Russell's the best ball player I ever seen. That Jordan's okay, but he's no Russell. People just have to defend their eras about things. I was glad that you ranked as one of the all-time great sitcoms, Always Sunny. People my age are like, Always Sunny. It's like, have you paid attention to that show? That show is, I don't know how many seasons deep, and it is still strong. It is.
It's like 13. Like they
still
snuck
on?
up. Oh yeah,
I didn't know it was still on.
So recent seasons, they've taken their time in between seasons, so as like they've gone on to do like other shows too, but they always will like come back and be like, hey, let's just keep making the best show on television again. Like, why not? But yeah, their consistency is incredible. It's like to me, it's a more relatable Seinfeld, because it takes the way they go about making every episode. But Seinfeld, if you weren't like living in New York at any point in your life, it's just like, yeah, this is good, but it's not like I can't relate to this stuff.
Growing up, Seinfeld seemed like a different planet to me, dude. New York, I just like couldn't even fathom. I was like, wow, Mars, like there's so many people. That's cool.
My old producer on DDFP, Black Tie, has never seen an episode of Seinfeld and is proud of that. That's funny. Feeney, who you guys know from Daves of Thunder, who's a TV writer, made a great observation about Always Sunny, which is if you watch it, the genius of it is that they're like kind of sort of them for their own idiosyncrasies. Each of the four people. Five people. Each of them for distinct reasons, but they're all malleable enough that when one walks into the room like, hey, I think we should all become heroin addicts, you never know. You never know it, just because it suits them that week to tell the story that way. Like, you never know if Charlie's going to be like, that is the greatest idea ever, or if he's going to be like, that's the worst idea ever. And they're interchangeable in their reaction to that. They all just like, whatever works this week. And it's an ingenious thing to not be like, well, that character would never do something like that. They all would do they all do all that stuff, and it's what the show kind of hinges on. But it's a marvelous show. It's one of the all-timers. So I was glad to hear you say that.
It wasn't a show that I considered that until like super recently, and like one day I just was like, I own every season on DVD because I started collecting them in college when I didn't even have like cable. So I was like, I own the first like 9 seasons on DVD. I don't have that with any other show other than The Simpsons. Yeah, of course, this is one of my favorite shows of all time. Why would I not think that automatically?
It is weird when like, but then I'm always struck by, but I know it's a product of age that Joey said, oh yeah, I'm not a Simpsons guy. I'm a Family Guy guy. But I mean, I get it. It is funny. It's like, I guess it's the way you guys probably perceive, this is a lame reference, but the Rolling Stones. You guys probably are like, the Rolling Stones are garbage.
That's the Beatles. I like the Rolling Stones.
They had great records up to a point in like 1980. And, then for the last 40 years, they've been very poor. But that's the stink that they carry with them. Maybe it's better maybe that's a cautionary tale for Tom Brady. Maybe he should just hang them up. Maybe you should take the
handle in the wind.
Yeah. What the Roan is trying to tell them. Maybe you should take that message. Just walk off into the sunset, man. We don't need to see you in that uniform. We don't need to see it. Just go. Don't be the Rolling Stones or the Simpsons. Just go.
Rolling Stones is tough to avoid if you've ever seen like a Scorsese movie, though.
True.
You know what I mean? Like they'll pop up. Their greatest hits will pop up, and it was like my father kept like Goat's Head Soup in the car type of deal. So like I was familiar enough with that. And like I'm a big Carlos Santana guy. No one my age is he comes out to do the anthem at the Golden State Warriors, and everyone's like, who's Baldy over here? Like I'm the only one like, yeah, that's my guy. Like,
I know. I appreciate it. All my references are really getting outdated here. I'm really confronting a dark second half of life here. But I did decide about a year or so ago that I'm good on music now. Like I'm not adding any new music. I'm like the first half of my life has been spent accumulating tons and tons and tons of music. And now if I continue that chase, I'll never hear all the music I've accumulated. So I'm just going to put my feet up. Second half of life, just listening to all the music. I don't need new music.
You ran up the score. Yeah.
Right. That's it. What's the point? I need new. I need to hear what else is out there. I know a lot already.
To that, I would say that's my greatest invention. I think streaming music.
Yeah.
Ooh,
with 2 clicks of the button, I can hear just about any album ever created. And there was no point in time in the history of life where this was true. It's like, boy, oh boy, I can't wait till that compact disc comes out.
I know about
album.
The wheel. I know about the wheel, and I know about Cook.
Yeah, the wheel's cool. It's cool, but you know what I mean?
But really, it's unfair to our predecessors, but the last like 40, 50 years have been, the lion's share of the good inventions.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we've come on real strong.
We got hot.
Even like streaming music's good, but I feel like that's where I would just say the iPod, because the streaming music doesn't come without that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy in my lifetime.
But it exists without it. That's why I would say it.
I remember the old man driving around with Sinatra 8-tracks in his old Cadillac Seville with the weirdest looking car ever. Inexplicably, the Cadillac makers just decided, like, yeah, it's a sedan, but we'll make it look like the trunk got chopped off by a giant axe. If you look it up, it's very strange. And then we got the cassette tapes and the CDs, and now we're beyond all that. All in the span of my life. It's crazy. Hey, fellas, I feel terrible, but I got to go because it's Mo Dameshek, my mother. It's her 79th birthday.
No, it
It
isn't.
is. And my sister has put together a big Zoom call with the entire family, and I'm officially 1 minute.
Well, get us on the call. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, look, link us in. Yeah, what? Mo, she was like, Whiskers, you son of a gun. Yeah.
I brought some friends. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Well, listen, happy birthday, Mo. She birthed a legend in her own right. And Shek, we won't wait several years to get to do this again.
No, we're doing it next week. We're doing the NBA City Cup, right? Something like that.
Listen, don't say that. Don't joke about that because we will do it.
Oh, anytime, fellas. Anytime. It's always a pleasure. You guys are the best. And muzzle tov to you, man. On old Mo's birthday is one thing, but muzzle tov to you on the new one.
Oh, much obliged. Tyler, you get nothing.
I'm fine with it. It is what it is.
Stay safe and sound. He's got that Raiders hat with the
That's right.
with the pirate inexplicably winking on it while he's got the eye patch on the other one.
Go talk to your mother. Go talk to your
mother. All the best, fellas.
All right,
thanks, Shaq. Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh man, he's like another thing about mothers.
Yeah, no, Shaq does that. Here's the thing about Jimmy Garoppolo. We're like, Shaq, it's 9:38, man. Like, please call your family.
He was gonna go back into doing the bit about the hat that he let off the program.
He's on the other end texting us. Say this, but say that I said it. Yeah.